Jaime Maussan is a renowned news journalist in Mexico. He's the host of their version of 60 Minutes every Sunday night. Through television, he's been in Mexican homes for decades. He's trusted as an intellectual journalist of integrity whose curiosity has led him to explore unexplained phenomena and transformed him into the foremost UFOlogist of Mexico. He's received global journalistic awards on his news programs, including on the environment, and through it, he's become a staunch advocate for environmental protection and human responsibility over climate change. In this interview, conducted in early 2011, he speaks to evidence he's gathered regarding UFO sightings and alien encounters in Mexico. Let's keep in mind it is a child of its time, predating 2012, the end of the Mayan calendar, with speculative thoughts that did not pan out immediately but are still valid today. His stature in journalism has made him a magnet recipient of information regarding UFO sightings, footage, material findings, and eyewitness accounts, and he has systematically collected, studied, and published many of his findings in multiple documentaries and books. In this reality entertainment interview, he discusses the accrual of UFO sightings in Mexico, including the sighting of a serpent-like object that released multiple spheres out of its body in 2009, that he predicts is a harbinger of things to come. Let's listen to Jaime Maussan.
I am a Mexican journalist. I have worked as an investigative journalist since 1970. I've been working in the Mexican television in Televisa since 1972. I became the head of the program 60 Minutes in 1985. I worked there since 1980 as a reporter. I was able to present probably 200 or 300 documentaries, an hour-long documentaries, over that 17 years. Because of that, I received 3 times the National Award on Journalism in Mexico, and a special recognition from the Capitol Hill in Washington, and a special recognition by the UN because of my achievements in the protection of environment with the Global 500 Award. Since then, since 1991, I've been working with the UFO phenomena in Mexico that is really happening every day somewhere in around the country. But what has been more important for me is that this flap has been recorded in video. It means that we have evidence to prove that something is really happening in the Mexican Republic. I realized in 1991, in the total solar eclipse, when many people recorded UFOs, that the video camera had become the most important instrument to really capture this new reality. I believe because it was in the hands of so many million people in Mexico and around the world. With time, we would be able really to prove that this was an absolute reality. And that I can tell you, after 14, 15 years, that we think we have been able to at least prove that something weird, strange is happening in Mexico. Even the Mexican Army, the Air Force in Mexico, recorded UFOs, that the video was given to me, and I released that to the world. With that video, we were able to prove that not just the regular citizens, but even the very sophisticated planes from the Air Force in Mexico, planes that are used to capture narcotics in the south area of the country, they were also able to record these strange objects. In that case, that happened on March the 5th, 2004, the soldiers were able to record something that they couldn't see with their own eyes. And that's amazing. That was the first time someone recorded something that they weren't able to see. In July 17, 2004, a very young man, which his name is Pedro Avila, was able to record one object with two different cameras over the same tripod. But with one of the cameras, with the camera with the normal spectrum, he couldn't see the object. But he was able to see the object through the infrared camera, very similar to the video recorded by the military. That proves that even sometimes there are objects that we cannot see with our own eyes, but they are there, they are watching us. In the last months in Mexico, after thousands of videos, since the end of 2004, probably August 2004, we have been registering some of the most spectacular videos from the last 15 years. In some of these videos, one recorded in June the 10th, 2004, the other June 21st, 2004, you can see hundreds and hundreds of objects making formations and flying together, exactly the same thing that you can see in the military video. These formations moving at the same speed, in the same direction, at the same altitude. In June, we recorded these two videos, and again, in I believe it was February 27, we were able to record 120 objects flying more than 400 kilometers an hour, probably 300 miles an hour, over Mexico City. The video is very spectacular. Again, in October 27, 2004, we were able to record a huge creature, probably 500 meters long or 300 meters long, releasing hundreds of spheres. This creature is what we could call a dragon or a serpent, a flying serpent, over the skies of Mexico City. Even was so big, huge, I say, this wasn't, the radar wasn't able to capture the image of this serpent in the sky of Mexico City, very near downtown Mexico City. The same kind of creature was recorded again in November 20th, 2004. Regarding the sightings in the Yucatan Peninsula, we had been able to get two incredible videos with a circular shaped object with lights. In both cases, it's exactly the same. Many people have seen this object in the Yucatan Peninsula, in the Yucatan area. And it's amazing because this appeared after the 3rd of August 2004, exactly when we had this Mayan calendar in England. We believe both events are related for some reason. We believe the Mayan calendar that we saw in England, it's some kind of advice to tell us that the end of the Mayan calendar is very near in 2012. And we believe that probably in 2012, something is going to happen. We don't believe in the destruction of the world, of the human beings. We believe in a change. Probably the rising of the sea level, as we heard in the news just 10 or 15 days ago, when it was announced that if the melting of the ice caps continues, by 2012, we will have the first problems with the rising of the seas, especially in the city areas like New York, Miami, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and in many other areas in Mexico, Cancun, Veracruz, Acapulco, and probably just around the world. As you know, has been predicted that many islands are going to disappear, and this is not debatable. It's a scientific truth. For that reason, we think that at this moment we should be trying to understand what this presence means, because so far we have been just discussing if it's real or if it's not real. And I think it's time to pass to a different level. And that level is trying to understand what is going on, what is happening. We have enough evidence, and I can prove that with data and knowledge of the existence of the phenomenon. We believe it comes from out of this world. We cannot prove that, but we believe it's from somewhere else. And we believe it's trying to communicate with us. On January 14th, 2004, we had this big flower in the sky. 6 objects making a flower, a huge flower in the sky. Nobody has been able to explain that. Just 15 days later, in January 31st, 2004, we had 6 objects making a delta formation over Mexico City. Probably spheres making this delta formation. For all those reasons, we think we should try to understand again what is happening. On March 31st, 2003, we had an incredible sign in the volcano Iztaccíhuatl, where we saw somehow a message in all Hebrew. This message was sent to Israel, and the answer we received is that said something like, on the 9th, the dragon will be born. That has been analyzed by the people who made the Bible code, and they have explained that the dragon is the one that brought the knowledge to the old Hebrews, and that the 9 is probably a region in the world. Then probably that region is Mexico, because Mexico has a serpent in the flag, in the symbol, national symbol. We love the serpents from the old cultures with Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan, excuse me. We also have the largest numbers of species of serpents in Mexico. For all that reasons, we believe that probably what that message said is, in Mexico, the knowledge will be born. And that is amazing when you connect that to the incredible activity we have been watching in many different cities in Mexico. Even the people in the tower of control of the airport in Mexico know about this. The pilots know about this. But outside Mexico, very few know what is really happening. We have to remember that on February 14th, 2000, a huge UFO landed in the middle of the school near downtown Mexico, that at least 12 policemen saw very near this thing, that we have official papers recognizing that this really happened. Even 7 journalists that were with the policeman can witness that they saw this object landing in the middle of the school, which proves that really something is going on in Mexico. We have also new videos from that same area in the city, Azcapotzalco, where you can see these huge objects flying around that place. That's what I can tell you about what is going on in my country. And I hope what is important is to look to the evidences, analyze, and I think it's time for the scientists and the academics to go take a good look what is happening there. I believe, because the activity is so intense, that it's going to grow. I believe something is going to happen in Mexico. I don't know if it's because the people are ready for a contact, or even before, communication. We are ready to send new information to the cosmos, as Frank Drake and Carl Sagan did on November 16, 1974. We had developed, with the help of some scientists, information to be sent to the stars. However, we haven't found the facilities or the possibilities to do it. Then I think if we can receive some help from investigators and scientists and people from other areas in the world, we could start some kind of communication. I don't want to sound crazy, because this reality is almost fantastic. It's almost like fiction, but it's real. Fortunately, we have been able to get all this information in tape. We now in Mexico have produced 3 different cases where you can see creatures being photographed with digital cameras. These pictures were taken by very simple people. When you present them, it's very easy to debate them, because when you see something that is not human, you say, it's not true. But they were taken by, one was taken by a 14-year-old kid, the other was taken by a young man who is a professional in radio, and the other one is anonymous. But the 3 are incredible, and they tell you how close they are from us. And I think it's going to be more and more. And I think it's time to listen to them and try to establish this communication. We won't have any contact until we have communication. And we have to try to identify the signs, the signs that are in the sky and sometimes physical, to try to answer these signs. Otherwise, we are losing very precious time, because if really, as the Mayans said more than 1,000 years ago, something happens with a big change in the world, especially with the rising seas, we are going to suffer very much. I want to bring your attention to the next equinox on March 21st, because we have to remember that the old people in Mexico and North America like to measure the position of the sky. I mean, the position of the sun related to the earth, to know if our planet was in the right position. And very soon we will know if this tsunami earthquake didn't move the earth enough to create a new change, probably around the weather, the climate. That could also create more problems, as we see that everything seems to be changing with the global climate. And I believe that if we have a change in the seasons, then with all the carbon dioxide and the increasing activity of the sun, all of this together, it's going to create a very difficult future. I want to be humble. I don't want to try to look like something who doesn't know what is talking to, but that's the way it's really happening in Mexico. Because I work in the media, because I was a journalist, because they respected me and I had credibility, because I have a television show every Sunday night in prime time, 7 to 9 p.m., and it's national, and it's on the air. For that reason, I have been able to change in many ways the perspective of Mexicans who are now starting to believe that something is really going on. Even very serious people, even very academic people, even some scientists are now watching to the new evidence with new eyes, and I think it's the time to do that. And that is why, I call the attention to them and others to investigate. Don't believe my words. You have to be very skeptical about what I say, but you should be investigating, otherwise you are not a scientist. I mean, that's the problem now. Everybody thinks that they know what is going on. They know that this phenomenon is not true just because they want to believe it's not true, but they are not investigating, and that's the problem with the scientists. They remind me of those who didn't want to see through the telescope of Galileo because they knew it was not true. Why should I lose something that is not true? That's exactly what the scientists are doing now. I mean, they don't want to look at the evidence, and that's when it's very difficult to prove anything, because they don't look, they don't say. But now, when I have this chance to hit the conscience every week, every Sunday night in Mexico, things are now changing and moving. And with that program, I am receiving the evidence all around the country. It's like a magnet. And very soon, through that media, through that program, we're going to present probably the most impressive evidence ever.